Thanks very much, Saskia and Daisy, for making time to talk with me today. I've followed the development of Better Places with great interest, not least because the Cape Town Declaration, as you will recall, Saskia, talked about responsible tourism as making better places for people to live in, because great places to live are great places to visit. And I was really flattered when you chose to name your new company Better Places. That was a really exciting moment for me, and I've followed what you've done since you moved away from Sourday
Uh-huh.
all those years ago. Daisy, can we start by talking about scope three emissions, and
Mhm.
particularly, and then I want to come to you, Saskia, to talk about what you understand by the theory of change, or your theory of change and innovation. But let's start with scope three emissions, because you're unusual as a company in taking seriously the importance of reporting on the carbon that your clients consume in the process of getting to the destination.
Yeah. Yeah, so scope three emissions are the emissions that are indirectly caused by you or by us in this case. So for a travel tour operator like us, that would be the flight or the transport to and from a destination. And in most cases, this is a flight, of course. What we see is that a lot of tour operators, when they are calculating their CO2 footprint, they do not take this flight into account because they do not own the airplanes or they do not book the tickets. So they say this is something that the traveler books and buys by himself, so it's not our responsibility. But we don't agree with that because, of course, a traveler cannot buy your product, your trip, if they don't fly to the destination. So it is our responsibility. So therefore, we also take into account the flight when we measure our CO2 footprint. And it's good to know that especially when we talk about a long haul trip, 95 up to 95% of the flight of the CO2 footprint of the holiday is the flight to and from the destination. So it's, if we only talk about the footprint of accommodations and local transport and activities, then that's only 5% of the grand total. So what are we really talking about? So we should really look at the scope three emissions when we talk about CO2 footprint in tourism.
But Daisy, in doing that, you really are at the cutting edge of this debate, aren't you? Because very few tour operators are in that position. You're out there in a very lonely place at the front of the tour operating industry, but you're still able to
Unfortunately.
survive and make a profit.
Yes, of course. I mean, I think travelers also appreciate it that we are being honest about it. We see a lot of discussions now online of people who are talking about this, like how can the CO2 footprint be so low, and it can only be because they do not take the flight into account. And climate change is a serious topic, so we should not play around with this. We have to make a change. Otherwise, we are ruining our own products because we're ruining the destinations that we are sending our travelers to.
I mean, one of the things which is so disappointing about the way economics has developed is that there's been a consistent process of ignoring the externalities. The economists focus just on the bottom line. They don't talk about the social cost or the environmental costs.
Yeah.
What you've done is move towards something which you might say is closer to the true pricing of
Yes.
the experience that the tourist is purchasing for their enjoyment. And after all, it is only a leisure activity. It's not essential to life that they have the holiday as much as we might think it is. Lots and lots of people never fly, and lots of people never have a holiday, but they
Absolutely.
survive into old age.
Yes. So I think it's easy to only it's the easiest way to only look at the actual product and ignore all the externalities. But actually, they have such a big effect, especially when it comes to climate change. When we talk about flying, for example. So we decided last year to try to calculate the what we call the true price of a flight ticket, and also a train and car trip to our destinations. And this means that we are we have the actual cost of a flight ticket. So what it is, what is the price that you pay now, and what is the price that it should be. And when we have this true price, we also take into account the costs that are there but we are not paying for at the moment, which is, for example, air pollution and also climate change. When we talk about air pollution, there's a lot of extra costs coming from that. For example, healthcare costs that are rising because people are experiencing lung problems. Now we as a society are paying for that through taxes, but this is not fair, because that means that I am paying for the damage that someone else who is taking a flight is causing. So when we talk about true pricing, we take that price and put it into the flight ticket, so that the person who is causing the damage is actually paying for it. Of course, we cannot charge the true price, unfortunately, but we can communicate it. And this is also for creating awareness. So we show people like this 60 euro return flight from Amsterdam to Barcelona is ridiculous. It's not, this price is just not even close to what it should be if we pay for the actual damage that we're causing. So and with this true price, we can also make a fair comparison between different types of transport. For example, a car, or traveling by train or by flight to a destination in Europe, for example, because then you can see that the true price for a flight is sometimes double the price as what you are paying at the moment, whereas the true price for a train, it's a few euros extra on top of the actual price that we're paying now. So
the other unfortunate thing about this, Daisy, in my view, is that it makes it very difficult for the trains to compete. I have great difficulty convincing people who are buying flights for me that actually I'd rather go on Eurostar and then by rail. But they look at the comparative cost, and because aviation fuel is not taxed, they bulk at doing that. So I think there's a whole series of reasons why what you're doing is entirely admirable, so long as you stay in business. Saskia, can I come to you now? I mean, you've written a lot on the website about your theory of change, and you've created the Innovation Fund. Can you talk a little bit about why you did that, how you do it, and what it costs the company to do it?
Yeah, sure. Now, yeah, we call ourselves an impact organization. So if you do that, you need the theory of change. So we've been doing a lot of work in creating our theory of change, because there's many companies tell, okay, this is our impact, but impact is actually a really difficult topic. So we hired some external expertise as well. And with a couple of our team members, we did yeah, Daisy, you were also part of it. So we did like a course to create our theory of change. And in the end, we actually came up with 3 theory of change, one for the destination, one for the customers, and one for our partners. And yeah, the theory of change has different layers. And for us, it gave a lot of insight. It's because we also talked about impact, while that wasn't really impact, because we don't have enough information to call it impact. So we did a lot of work on that. And of course, yeah, it did cost us money, but it also helped to raise the quality of our trips. So for me, sustainability and everything we do around impact and measuring is always to enhance the quality of our trips. And of course, it's not every customer who's really interested in all these in all these details, but step by step, we are doing our work. And we also see that other companies are following our example, and we share everything we do. We are really transparent. We share everything we do. You can find everything on our website. Sometimes we even wonder, do we put too many things on the website because it's too much, so people will drown in it? But still, we see that especially other companies are really copying what we're doing, and they're also telling us, okay, you're really inspiring for us, and we are doing this. And that's a compliment to me. I mean, in this, we should all learn from each other.
Saskia, you've for a very long time, you've been a leader in this sector. When do you think somebody might actually get ahead of you?
Well, when do you say? I think there's a lot of things happening, and also I'm also inspired by other sectors, what's happening in other sectors, not just in the travel industry. The last 2 days I was at the summit of social enterprises, and there's so much things going on and so much things to be inspired and to be hopeful. So
Saskia, was there anybody else from travel at that other conference?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And one of the problems about travel and tourism is it self-references the whole time. It doesn't look beyond the silo that it's in. And you're right, a lot is happening outside of travel and tourism, much more than is happening in it.
Definitely so. And we can learn from that and be inspired. And that's
we need to. There isn't much difference between a hotel and an office block, really. What I wanted, though, to just push you on, because I think you and I possibly disagree about this. Why on earth are you a B Corp company?
Well, in the beginning, because we are already a B Corp for, I think, like 6 years. And in the beginning, we really did it to test ourselves, to know, okay, we want to be a social enterprise. What is needed to really be called a social enterprise? But so in the beginning, we went through all the things. And I think a lot has changed in the B Corp world, because in the beginning, we were really proud to be a B Corp. But what we see, what is happening now, is that many big companies are becoming a B Corp. And sometimes we wonder, how can they be a B Corp? And I think the process at the moment is not transparent enough. You can see a score, but you cannot see how this score has come together. And during the recertification, we actually had a lot of problems to know or to figure out how the score was built up. And at the moment, I'm not really sure whether we will continue with the B Corp, because it's becoming too, what do they say? I hate to say this, because I don't really like that the development was like this. We see that some criteria are becoming a bit too weak. And I think B Corp should really mean something, and it should be really difficult to achieve it. So at the moment, I'm not so positive about the B Corp certification, but still I'm hopeful, because they are working on the criteria and they are planning to raise the bar, which I think is really important.
There was a big, there's a full page in the back of the Financial Times at the weekend a couple of years ago now, probably, which was a serious expose of really fueled by people who'd left the B Corp movement. I'm happy about exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. To be honest, because we have a German sister company called Fairway, and they decided to leave the B Corp because they couldn't just.
I suspect the B Corp movement has come to its termination.
But one thing I always think it's important to. I think you can do more when you are still within it. Then you can try and change it and help it become better than being on the outside. That's the reason we stay.
Saskia,
because we can still put their own.
I've always admired your optimism and sheer grit for putting up with these things. But can we just move on slightly? And we need to wrap up shortly, I think. But I'm intrigued by what's happening with the change in Europe now on the requirements for reporting on the externalities. In a way, Daisy, that's what they are. They're requiring that companies report their externalities, and they're making it part of they're paralleling it with the financial reporting system. So it's going to be a lot tighter than it was. What do you think about GSTC and certification? Because it seems to me they're going to really struggle now that a much higher level of transparency is going to be required, at least in Europe. And I suspect that will spread around the world as the EU leads on this.
Daisy, are you going to comment, or were you asking?
Sorry, I wasn't sure you were asking me. So well, I agree. I think it's a movement, and it's going to spread. For us, it means Actually, we're very happy that this is happening because it means that we cannot just claim that we're sustainable, but we actually have to prove it, and people can see it because we have to be transparent. So this is something we have always been doing. We have this year, for the first time, we have actually published an impact report as well, where we show everything that we've been working on in our impact measurement, and also how we are doing it, and the challenge that we're facing, the mistakes that we're making, the ways we're going to improve. And by being transparent about it, we can show that it's not so easy. So we also make mistakes, and also other companies can learn from us. And I think other companies, also the smaller companies who are not, how do you say that? They don't have to do it soon from the EU requirements, but I think it is smart to start working on it, because once we have to do it, it's going to be a lot of work if you have to start then. So yeah, it's a learning process, and I think by the time that we have to do it by law, then we are ready, because we've been doing it for many years. So yeah, so please have a look at our impact report and see what we're doing, and ask us questions if you have any questions.
Daisy, I certainly endorse that. For anybody who's watching this video, I will put the link at the end for your site, and certainly it's worth exploring both the theories of change that you've developed, but also the innovation fund. Saskia, do you want to just say something about why you set up the innovation fund?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we until last year we still used the offsetting. So we dedicated a fair amount of our profits to offsetting, but to me, offsetting became more and more of a greenwashing, because companies were using it. So okay, we now offset, so we're ready, and that's for me, it's the last resort to go to. So for us, we saw this development, and there was also a big lack of transparency on what actually the companies were offsetting. So we decided to stop and focus fully on reducing our emissions. But on the other hand, we still have a lot of long-haul destinations, and we still, we feel the responsibility to invest in innovation and biodiversity, because we have a role to play in this. And I think there is a lot of knowledge available already, but it's just a lack of funding and directing the money in the right direction. So for us, this is really important, but we're still struggling with this innovation fund. Where exactly? We still haven't found the right project to dedicate the funds. We're now investing in various projects, but we're really looking to one big project where we can invest in.
Saskia, all I can say is, if you're going to be out in front and pushing the edge of the envelope, it's always going to be difficult. And I don't think you're alone. There's at least one other company with the same challenges, but at least you've recognized that just planting trees is not the solution. Definitely.
No, definitely not.
Saskia, one last question for you. Actually, two. The first one, you probably would just respond with your face, which will tell us everything we need to know. But presumably it's been quite wonderful to be liberated and able to set up your own company and to do this exactly the way you want to do it.
Yeah, definitely, yes. And I'm really lucky to have a good team of people and a lot of very good partners overseas who are really into this as well.
We're certainly going to come back and do a lengthier interview on another occasion with Daisy, given that she traveled for 3 years with flying only once. I'm looking forward to hearing about your excuse for the one flight, Daisy. But it's an incredible achievement to have done that. I wanted to finish actually by just asking you about the business case, because it's clear from the amount of money you're putting into the innovation fund, and that's clear on your website, that you're making a profit, else there would be no innovation fund, and you are attracting customers. If you weren't, you wouldn't be in business. Am I right in assuming that one of the benefits you have is that people come to you because you have great trips, and having had the experience of traveling with you, they come back to look for another trip with you? Is that the way it's working?
That's the way it's working. And also for me, sustainability is part of the quality. So we have, for me, my most important KPI is to have good evaluations. I aim for a 9 and up. and we're almost there. So I think that's, and then if you have a good quality trip, you want to do it again. And we are a service sector. So it's really important to have good staff, to have people you train, to pay your people well. And then they give good service. It's so logical to me.
It is, and when people are, I mean, for most people, that annual holiday is the biggest expenditure they're making that year. It surprises me that many consumers are still not looking for the really ultimate experience that they ought to be expecting of such a big expenditure, and they settle for the best. I can't help but think that the future will be with companies like yours, and you've been at the cutting edge for a long time, so I congratulate you on it. And thank you very much for your time today. May you continue to be as successful.